There's so many people and so little time. While God is looking for laborers, they seem so hard to find. So busy making a living, wrapped up in our little worlds. The very blessings that He gave us are now what's holding us back. If we say that we have faith, then where is the action? Put away our selfish plans and every distraction.
Well, the harvest is wide and it's ready. People searching and coming up empty, and our faith without action is deadly. So where are the laborers? Where are the laborers? Oh yeah. Where are the laborers?
So many Christians are able, but so little prepared. Staring at the man in the mirror, but there's broken people everywhere. So we're never gonna reach the lost if our eyes turn away from the cross. The hope for all humanity is a man that says, I'll go.
I will go. Well, the harvest is wide and it's ready. People searching and coming up empty, and our faith without action is deadly. So where are the laborers? Where are the laborers? Oh yeah.
You're waiting for the perfect moment. If you're waiting for the perfect time, no need to wait any longer. Can't you see the need is now?
Can't you see the need is now?
If you're waiting for the perfect moment, if you're waiting for the perfect time,
Oh, the perfect time.
no need to wait any longer. Can't you see the need is now?
The harvest is wide and it's ready. People searching and coming up empty, and our faith without action is deadly. So where are the laborers? Where are the
In our text, the Bible says, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed. And the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards, and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens, and eat the fruit of them. The book of Amos may have been written nearly 3,000 years ago, but it holds timely truths for us today. Amos prophesied during a time of political and financial prosperity. The land of Canaan was very fertile. It was a land that flowed with milk and honey. And when the children of Israel thrust in the plowshares and began to employ the arts of agriculture, the land became exceedingly fertile, yielding so much corn that Palestine became like Egypt, the granary of the nations. In the hearts of the people, this affluence produced a self-reliance and materialism that eventually led to a time of great moral bankruptcy. Amos prophesied God's displeasure against a climate of worship based on lip service. The Lord despised their showy worship, where they fulfilled the rituals of devotion but neglected inward righteousness. What God was looking for in these people is what God is always looking for in His people: true surrender. Israel considered their materialism a sign of blessing and God's approval. Their fixation on material wealth was met instead with God's scorn and anger. The true heartbeat of God's concern is not the success and prosperity of the righteous, but rather with the reaching of the lost, the poor, and the oppressed. We understand that our obedience to the principles of Christianity will result in supernatural blessing, and we do our very best not to be sidetracked by it. We develop in our churches a culture of outreach that defines our passion. We endeavor to steward the resources of our abundance, not inward to ourselves. We understand the true riches of the kingdom are the souls of men and women, so we pour our resources into an outward thrust of evangelism, bringing the message of hope to the lost. Pastor Scott Grabowska and his wife Carrie, along with the Havelock congregation, have faithfully kept the vision of reaching the lost into these last days and all the COVID restrictions. A Bible study at the Marine Barracks on Cherry Point Air Station has been very fruitful, with up to 12 people attending at times. 6 of those Marines have locked into the church, consistently attending services and joining in with other new converts to be baptized. Revivals with Leonard Williams and Mark Tozer were also very instrumental. The young Marines that came to the revivals were blessed with words of knowledge from both evangelists. When the power went out one Sunday, they took church outside into the parking lot for the whole neighborhood to see. The music nights held at the Unlimited building continued to be a great outreach into the community. They are also able to use the parking lot for outdoor concerts, free food outreaches, and Halloween trunk-or-treat events. In Joliet, Illinois, Pastor Seth and Kelsey Norcross have been laboring hard to establish a work. Street preaching on Saturdays has been one of their most fruitful outreaches, with people coming to church after seeing and hearing the witness of the gospel on the streets. For Halloween, the church presented a rock musical of the Joker play. Talented men in the church went all out to bring the gospel message in a modern way. The production was a great success, and visitors responded to the message. A follow-up Thanksgiving celebration saw many people in attendance for fellowship and a short gospel movie. The Joliet Church continues to take shape in the Midwest. In Stark, Florida, the church participated in the annual Christmas parade and car show. They entered a float with the cast of the Beauty and the Beast play. Along the parade route, they passed out flyers advertising a performance that night and a revival starting the next morning. People stood in line for the production, and a packed building heard the gospel message. 4 of the visitors responded to the altar, and some came back to church for the revival meetings. In North Raleigh, the church is experiencing a time of visitation as God is adding to the work. Pastor Duckett has enjoyed the help of many visiting ministers from the area that are partnering together to help grow the church. For a period of time, the congregation was moved outside as the building underwent a major expansion project. The sanctuary can now facilitate the addition of many new souls as they move on into future fruitfulness. In Spring Lake, the congregation is in a season of great blessing. The church is rejoicing to see many couples rising up to lead home Bible studies throughout the area. Saturday outreaches and street preaching continue in town and out of town with impact teams to other cities. At the end of the summer, a back-to-school festival brought many visitors out for fun and games, and to hear the gospel ministered. One exciting thing has been a breakthrough of revival within the youth. The Frontline Youth Ministry has given church kids direction in their personal walk with God. Many church children have been baptized in devotion as a result.
It's the heart of each individual where national healing begins.
The church in High Point, North Carolina, received a visit from a Jacksonville outreach team. After a time of prayer, preparation, and worship, the team outreached local apartment complexes going door to door. At the end of the day, they set up for an outdoor concert in a parking lot. There were visitors who heard the gospel, though no one responded with a public commitment. Later, however, a man came into the service having received a flyer on his door from the outreach team. He is still active in the congregation. Although the team did not see immediate fruit for their labors, their lasting impact remains. A visible gospel witness is ever on the streets in Pembroke Pines. With only a few fellowship churches in South Florida, they have their work cut out for them, but have been rising to the challenge unashamed to bring the gospel to any street corner they find. They host festive music nights and plays inside their building and do events in their parking lot. A fall festival drew 200 visitors, making 53 contacts with 4 people saved, and gave the church opportunity to reach out in helping spiritual needs. Pastor Dion Howard visited and brought his highly effective Walmart Blitz outreach. The church was excited to share their faith every night for a solid week up and down the aisles, witnessing to shoppers and employees alike. A total of 58 people prayed for salvation. Names and numbers were exchanged as 80 new connections were made. The church saw a steady flow of visitors in the following week and have added 2 new members that are still locked in today. The congregation continues to grow in the blessing of fruitfulness.
There's a war going on. There's a war going on. Will we fight? Will we fight till it's won? Will we fight? Will we fight till it's won? There's a war going on. Which side are you on? They're coming for the children to carry them off to Babylon. propaganda on every station, indoctrination through education. If there's any hope for the nation, we gotta stand and say, we're gonna tear down the walls of the city. We're gonna see a move of God, are you with me? We're gonna tear down the walls of the city. We're gonna see a move of God, are you with me? Gonna see revival. We can change the world
With the gospel of Jesus,
we can change the world.
preaching deliverance and freedom.
Prophecies been spoken, chains are gonna be broken,
Taking back what's been stolen.
we can change the world.
There's a war going on for the minds of the youth. What they see every day, redefining the truth. Got them hung by a noose, evolution in schools, but they banned Dr. Seuss. Should we call it a truth? Should I fight for the cause? Should I jump off a roof? Or keep bringing them war, cause they changing their laws? So my daughters and sons keep ignoring the Lord. Never call it a draw, we be bringing it raw. Elgo Boy be the one who be swinging the sword. So let's charge, no remorse, gotta bring it by force. So they turn and repent and be changing their course. And from darkness to light, got them reaching the cross.
We're gonna tear down the walls of the city. Tearing it down. We're gonna see a move of God, are you with me?
God is on
We're gonna tear down the walls of the city. Oh, we're tearing them down. We're gonna see a move of God, are you with me? Gonna see revival. We can change the world.
with the gospel of Jesus.
We can change the world.
Preaching deliverance and freedom.
Prophecies been spoken, chains are gonna be broken,
Taking back what's been stolen.
we can change the world.
In the book of Acts, the Bible tells us that these early believers, they were not refined, not educated in Bible schools, not cream of the crop of society. They went forth and they preached everywhere.
Gonna tear down the walls of the city.
They went everywhere.
We're gonna see a move of God, are you with me? We're gonna tear down the walls of the city. We're gonna see a move of God, are you with me? Gonna see revival. We can change the world.
The gospel of Jesus.
We will change the world. Through Jesus, there is healing. We're gonna see the nations turning. We can change the world.
As we continue to invest our affluence into the souls of men, our text speaks of a promise of revival. The vast expense of resources that go into world evangelism has been reaping dividends on foreign soil. In Puerto Rico, a pioneer work is settling into the city of Ponce. Pastor Rodriguez has been able to secure a building, and the church is beginning to take form. The Rodriguezes are making many new friends and connections in the area and actively building a foundation for future investment into the island. God is doing wonderful things in Curitiba, Brazil. There is a growing core of disciples in the church. They are excited to labor on the streets in witnessing and evangelism, taking the gospel outside to as many venues as they can find. Pastor Gunkel formed a band and had an outdoor concert with a special visit from international rap artist Pastor Eric Francis. He used his attention-grabbing music beats to encourage bystanders to stop and enjoy a message of hope for the nation of Brazil. The local authorities did a drive-by, and thanks to the miracle power of conversion, Brother Francis had no need to run or hide. He boldly stood and shared to great effect the story of his conversion from a life of sin and crime. Church attendance is multiplying beyond pre-COVID numbers with true converts and men wanting to serve God. Pastor Gunkel has been instructing these men as they are eager to learn. The church continues to grow from day to day as the Spirit makes its thrust into the nation. Likewise, in Joinville, Brazil, Manuel and Elaine Delgado are also experiencing a season of increase. The church is reaching into a growing population of refugees, fleeing desperate situations in neighboring Venezuela. Thankfully, the Delgados are fluent in both Brazilian Portuguese and in Spanish. They are uniquely positioned for such a time as this to be able to reach into both communities. Souls are added to the church, and their influence in the region is growing. When the sower begins the labor, he does it in complete faith. He cannot predict what the harvest outcome will be. He cannot predict the problems or struggles that might arise. If a drought might come to ruin the harvest, or insect attack might destroy the crops. He cannot predict if the rains will come or the sun will shine to produce a desired bumper crop. He starts his labor every day, working the field as best he can, in anticipation of a good yield. Yet in the end, when considered from the beginning, the results of every harvest is a surprise. One field of harvest that has become a surprise blessing is in Almaty, Kazakhstan. Perry and Josie Dominguez have been busy bringing the gospel to a desperate people. Outreach efforts have been fruitful as God continually adds to the church. After landing in Kazakhstan, in what some would call a coincidence, Pastor Dominguez came in contact with a Kazakh fellowship that has been laboring for many years along a similar track to the pattern that we follow of evangelism, outreach, discipleship, and church planting. These men have shown interest in learning the strategies and structures that we use to reach into the world. A recent pastors' rally saw leaders of this group gather from all over the nation to hear seminars from Pastor Sergei Golubev and Pastor Sispansky. A later time of fellowship gave opportunity for these men to ask questions about the methods we have come to use and learn of the biblical patterns we employ. These men returned to their cities with fresh biblical insight they can apply to reach their nation for Jesus. God appears to be doing a very quick work in Kazakhstan and positioning the country to become a launching center with unique access into a region of countries our fellowship has little connection to. Please continue to pray that God's will shall be accomplished in the nation of Kazakhstan.
It was hard for me to believe that people 1,000 kilometers away or more across the ocean were praying for our country and our countrymen. And when Pastor Dominguez says that there's people in a small city of Jacksonville that are praying for our country, our people in this nation every day, honestly, it was really hard for me to believe that. Couldn't believe that Jacksonville, a city in America, was praying for us here in Kazakhstan. But when I went to the rally, I went and I saw the pastor from Jacksonville who has planted many churches and planted churches all over the world. And I was really surprised and I was convicted in my heart. And I said, I'm not right. And when Pastor David came here and he told us our church, the members of our church are praying for you every day. Thank God there's people that are praying for us and praying for our church.
Our text gives us a concrete foreshadowing of a biblical promise, that the harvest which is to come will be so great that it will take more than a full season to collect it all. That before the reapers have fully gathered the harvest, it will be time for the plowman to sow the next season's crops. By reason of the abundant fertility, one season shall run into another in a prolonged cycle of fruitfulness. What this means for us is that we shall see an abundant ingathering of souls supernaturally added to the harvest. Do you believe God is about to send times of fertility to His church? For there is sufficient vigor in the seed of the Lord to produce a far more plentiful crop than any we have yet gathered. Do you still believe that the sower shall overtake the reaper? Are you still willing to put your hand to the plow and continue to work the fields? For God does not promise that there shall be fruitful crops without labor. The plowman does not wait resting. He has his plow ready, and no sooner is one harvest gathered home and he's ready to plow again. Think of the joy and the hope the plowman must feel when he sets out to labor and he sees the reaper still gathering from his earlier work. The hard labor of sowing must then seem a delight when viewed in the hopeful anticipation of what the next harvest should bring. When there is no fruitfulness, it is easy for the plowman to become cynical and fatalistic. Every church member has wrestled with the same conflict of having invested so much effort into an outreach only to have it fall flat, with results disproportionate to the labor invested. The unfulfilled expectations can be crushing for future labors. Herein lies the problem. When you have lost hope for reaping the fruits of your labor, it will become hard to continue to labor for fruit. We must labor with the hope of a return. We must labor in the dominion of expectation. The plowman must believe that it is not all up to the mysteries of nature. He will work the ground differently when he believes his hands can influence the outcome. He will not skim the surface of the field only. He will work the field, pulling out the weeds, breaking up the underlying fallow ground. By the sweat of his brow, he will lay down the fertilizers, trench irrigation, and take dominion over the field, as to help nature take its course with the best possible ground to work with. When working the fields of evangelism, we can take this dominion when we are energized by the hope of fruitfulness. Our evangelical efforts in building churches in our cities must have the element of hope that the fruit will come. Without the hope of fruitfulness, we will not take the dominion needed to see the fulfillment of the text. The mountains shall drop sweet wine. They shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall make gardens and eat the fruit of them. The Bible promises fruitfulness and results to those who do not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap if we faint not.
In a world where hope has been lost, and with veiled eyes they cannot see the cross, oh, it looks like the fields are as wide as they've ever been. Shattered hearts and broken souls drink drinking from stale waters that'll never make them whole. Oh, it looks like the fields are as white as they've ever been. It's a time to plant, a time to water, a time to harvest and gather. If there ever was a time, oh Lord, it is now. Oh, this world could use everything we have right now.
Too ashamed to look you in the eye.